for other uses of H-19C H-19. The Sikorsky H-19 Chickasaw was a multi-purpose helicopter used by United States Army and United States Air Force. It was also license-built by Westland Aircraft as the Westland Whirlwind in the United Kingdom. United States Navy and United States Coast Guard models were designated H-04S, while those of the U.S. Marine Corps were designated HRS. In 1962, the U.S. Navy, U.S. Coast Guard and U.S. Marine Corps versions were all redesignated as H-19s like their U.S. Army and U.S. Air Force counterparts. Design and development. The H-19's first flight was on November 10, 1949, and it entered operations in 1950. Over 1,000 of the helicopters were manufactured by Sikorsky for the United States. An additional 550 were manufactured by licensees of the helicopter including Westland Aircraft, the SNCASE in France and Mitsubishi in Japan. The helicopter was widely exported, used by many other nations, including Portugal, Greece, Israel, Chile, South Africa, Denmark and Turkey. In 1954 the Marines tested an idea to assist the rotors lift better in hot or high climates and if the helicopter was overloaded, by installing a rocket nozzle at the tip of each rotor blade with the fuel tank located in the center above the rotor blade hub. Enough fuel was provided for 7 minutes of operation. Operational history. The H-19 Chickasaw holds the distinction of being the U.S. Army's first true transport helicopter and, as such, played an important role in the initial formulation of Army doctrine regarding air mobility and the battlefield employment of troop-carrying helicopters. The H-19 underwent live service tests in the hands of the 6th Transportation Company, during the Korean War beginning in 1951 as an unmanned transport helicopter. Undergoing tests such as medical evacuation, tactical control and frontline cargo support, the helicopter succeeded admirably in surpassing the capabilities of the H-5 Dragonfly which had been used throughout the war by the Army. The U.S. Air Force ordered 50 H-19As for rescue duties in 1951. These aircraft were the primary rescue and medical evacuation helicopters for the USAF during the Korean War. The Air Force continued to use the H-19 through the 1960s, ultimately acquiring 270 of the H-19B model. France made aggressive use of helicopters in Algeria, both as troop transports and gunships. Piasecki Vertal H-21 and Sud-built Sikorsky H-34 helicopters rapidly displaced fixed-wing aircraft for the transport of paras and quick-reaction commando teams. In Indochina, a small number of Hiller H-23s and Sikorsky H-19s were available for casualty evacuation. In 1956, the French Air Force experimented with arming the H-19, then being superseded in service by the more capable Piasecki H-21 and Sikorsky H-34 helicopters. The H-19 was originally fitted with a 20mm cannon, 2 rocket launchers, plus a 20mm cannon, 2 12.7mm machine guns, and a 7.5mm light machine gun firing from the cabin windows, but this load proved far too heavy, and even lightly armed H-19 gunships fitted with flexible machine guns for self-defense proved underpowered. The H-19 was also used in the early days of the Vietnam War before being supplanted by the Sikorsky H-34 Choctaw, which was based on the H-19. Variants: YH-19, 5 early production S-55s for evaluation. H-19A, USAF version of the YH-19 powered by a 600 HP, R1340-57 engine, redesignated UH-19A in 1962, 50 built. H-19A, H-19 is modified for air-sea rescue, redesignated HH-19A in 1962. H-19B, H-19A with a more powerful 700 HP, R1300-3 engine, redesignated UH-19B in 1962, 264 built. H-19B, H-19BS modified for air-sea rescue, redesignated HH-19B in 1962. H-19C, U.S. Army version of the H-19A, redesignated UH-19C in 1962, 72 built. H-19D, U.S. Army version of the H-19B, redesignated UH-19D in 1962, 301 built. HO-4S1, U.S. Navy version of the H-19A, 10 built. HO-4S2, project for rescue version for the United States Coast Guard, not built. HO-4S3, re-engined U.S. Navy and Canadian version with 700 HP, Writer 1300 engine, redesignated UH-19F HO-4S3 in 1962, 79 built. HO-4S3G, United States Coast Guard version of the HO-4S3, redesignated HH-19G in 1962, 30 built. HRS-1, United States Marine Corps version of the HO-4S for 8 troops, 60 built. HRS-2 Hours 1 with equipment changes, 101 built. HRS-3 Hours 2 with a 700 HP, R1300-3 engine, became CH-19E in 1962, 105 built and conversions from HRS-2. HRS-4, project for HRS-3 with a 1025 HP, R1820 radial engine, not built. UH-19A, H-19A redesignated in 1962. HH-19A, Sh-19A redesignated in 1962. UH-19B, H-19B redesignated in 1962. HH-19B, Sh-19B redesignated in 1962. CH-19E, HRS-3 redesignated in 1962. UH-19F, HO-4S3 redesignated in 1962. HH-19G, HO-4S3G redesignated in 1962. S-55, commercial version with 600 HP, R1340 engine. S-55A, commercial version with 800 HP, R1300-3 engine. S-55C, S-55A with a 600 HP, R1340 engine. S-55T, aircraft modified by Aviation Specialities and produced and marketed by Helite with a 650 shp, Garrett I Research TPE 331-3U303 turbo shaft and updated equipment. S-55 Quartz, commercial conversion. Ultra-quiet helicopter for sightseeing flights over the Grand Canyon. OHAS-55 Helicamper, commercial conversions carried out by Orlando Helicopters. OHAS-55 Night Writer, commercial conversion. Aerial advertising helicopter, fitted with a 12.2 mx array of computer-controlled lights. OHAS-55 Barcat, commercial conversion. Agricultural helicopter. OHAS-55 Heavy Lift, commercial conversion. Flying crane helicopter. QS-55 Aggressors, commercial conversion. S-55 helicopters converted into flying targets. OHA-AT-55 Defender, commercial conversion. Armed military helicopter. Whirlwind HAR-21, HRS-2 for Royal Navy, 10 delivered. Whirlwind HAS-22, HO-4S3 for Royal Navy, 15 delivered. Later marks of Whirlwind were built under license. Operators. Aircraft on display, see Westland Whirlwind for examples of the British license-built S-55. Canada, Shearwater Aviation Museum, CFB Shearwater, Nova Scotia, HO-4S3 SAR. Number 55885 displayed in Royal Canadian Navy SQN. Number 7 colors as used by Anti-Submarine Squadron HS-50 and Utility Squadron HU-21, Denmark, Danmarks Flymuseum, Storning, Denmark, Danish Air Force S-55 CS-884. Norway, Norwegian Armed Forces Aircraft Collection, Gardermoen, Norway, RNOAF H-19D4, SAR. Number 56 to 4279. Serbia, Mused Vazduhoplovstvo, Belgrade, Serbia, United States, Fantasy of Flight, Polk City, Florida, S-55 registered as N-111VA, National Museum of Naval Aviation, NAS Pensacola, Florida, HH-19G, Coast Guard SAR. Number 1258 is displayed in U.S. Coast Guard colors, Flying Leatherneck Aviation Museum, MCAS Miramar, San Diego, California. HRS-3 Chickasaw of HMR 161, United States Marine Corps Euro BU 130252, National Museum of the United States Air Force, Wright-Patterson AFB, Ohio, UH-19BAF Ser. Number 52 to 7587 is painted in the colors of one of the helicopters to make the first transatlantic flight. Orlando Sanford International Airport UH-19 DCN 55 to 3197 is in civilian colors. Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. The first S-55/YH-19 is on display at the Upvor-Hazy Center, Palmer Air and Space Museum, adjacent to Davis-Monthan AFB, Arizona, UH-19B, AF Ser. Number 52 to 7537 in civilian registered as N2256G is painted in USAF Rescue colors, Valiant Air Command Warbird Museum, Space Coast Regional Airport, Florida, UH-19D, AF Ser. Number 57 to 5937 in civilian registered as N37788 is painted in USAF Rescue colors, Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum, adjacent to McMinnville Municipal Airport in McMinnville, Oregon, H-19A Army Ser. Number 52 to 7602 is displayed indoors in U.S. Army colors. Strategic Air and Space Museum in Ashland, Nebraska, located near Offutt AFB. Ser. Number 53 to 4426, specifications. General characteristics, crew, 2, capacity, 12 troops or 8 litters, length, 62 feet 7 inches, rotor diameter, 53 feet, height, 13 feet 4 in, disk area, FTA squared, empty weight, 4,795 pounds, loaded weight, 7,200 pounds, max takeoff weight, 7,900 pounds, power plant, 1 Pratt & Whitney A1340-57 radial engine, 600 horsepower, performance, maximum speed, 101 miles per hour, range, 405 miles, service ceiling, 10,500 feet, rate of climb, 700 feet per minute, notable appearances in media. See also, related development, Westland Whirlwind, Sikorsky H-34, aircraft of comparable role, configuration and era, Mi-4, Harbin Z-5, related lists, list of military aircraft of the United States, list of helicopters, list of civil aircraft, references, bibliography, Duke, R.A., Helicopter Operations in Algeria, Trans. French, Department of the Army, France, Operations Research Group, Report of the Operations Research Mission on H-21 Helicopter Department of the Army, Riley, David, French Helicopter Operations in Algeria, Marine Corps Gazette, February 1958, pp. 21 Euro 26. Schrader, Charles R., The First Helicopter War, Logistics and Mobility in Algeria, 1954 Euro 1962, Westport, Connecticut, Praeger Publishers, Spencer, J.P., Whirlybirds, A History of the U.S. Helicopter Pioneers, Seattle, Washington, University of Washington Press, Notes. Further reading, Now a Plus or Minus is Padin, Jorge Felix. Sikorsky, Juan Carlos. Now a Plus or Minus is Padin, Jorge Felix, ed. Sikorsky S-55 per hour 19 and S-58 per ton. Sirian Argentina 6. Bahia Blanca, Argentina, Vietza Aeronavales. ISBN A978-987-1682-13-3. Retrieved August 24, 2014. External links, H-19 U.S. Army Aviation History Fact Sheet, H-19 Chickasaw on globalsecurity.org, USMC Sikorsky HRS Database, HELIS.com Sikorsky S-55 Database, Sikorsky H-19 Helicopter Flight Training, 1956 U.S. Army Instructional Film on YouTube.